Hello, all. This is Ann Y, and you are listening or watching to the Bible reading series. If you have not watched the first episode, please do so for at least a disclaimer. But we will be in Genesis 31, King James Version this time. And to start this off proper, let's do the Lord's Prayer here. Matthew 6, 9 through 13, King James Version. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Chapter 31, Genesis 31, King James. And Jacob leaves secretly for Canaan. That is the header. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field and to his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father hath deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. And if he said thus, The speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, The ring-straked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring-straked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked, speckled, and grizzled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, and speckled, and grizzled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting which had gotten in Paddan Aram, for to go to Yitzhak his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images were her father's, that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, or Aramee, in that he told him that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the mount of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. And it was told Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob was fled. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in the mount of Gilead. And God came to Laban the Aramee in a dream by night, and said unto him, Take heed that thou speak to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban was with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, with tabret, and with harp? And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters, thou hast not done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure, thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. With whomsoever you findest thy gods, let him not live before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. Then he went out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to the father, Let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. Jacob was wroth, and he showed with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought unto thee. I bear the loss of it of my hand. Didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night? Thus I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak had been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God hath seen mine affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. The covenant of Mizpah. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children, which thou have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone, and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, Gather stones, and they took stones, and made a heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Yegar Sahaduta, but Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead. In Mizpah, for he said, The Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Yitzhak. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread, and they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned unto his place. Sends the reading. Excuse me. So, we see some of the children of Laban saying not so honest things about Jacob. He's accused of theft. We see him prepare himself and his family and all that he has within the nighttime, and he flees. We see Laban follow after him 3 days afterwards, and then it turns into a 7-day journey to catch up to him. Before leaving, Rachel, Jacob's wife, decides to take from Laban his idols or his imagery. And then, on the way out, Laban is met by God in the middle of the night, and he is told not to speak evil or good to Jacob. And then he comes upon them, and he says, "What have you done? You have taken my children." Love you too, hon. And you have taken my children, and you have also taken my idols. And he proclaims the fact that God had spoken to him yesternight, as it were, and he starts searching Jacob says, go ahead and search, because he doesn't know that Rachel has actually taken the images or the idols of Laban, which these idols are, if my understanding is correct, of Nahor, which will come in at the end. So he finds nothing, because at this moment, Rachel says that the time of a woman has come upon her, which is considered unclean at that time frame, and she cannot rise. So Laban does not find his idols or imagery, which is underneath of her, in a sack or a pillow that is used for camels. And so he comes out, and Jacob gets really mad, and he says, "What have I done? Put forward whatever you have found against me." Well, he doesn't have anything, so Laban says, "Well, let's make a covenant," as he does quite often so far. There's at least 3 that I know of off the top of my head. This one and 2 others, which he calls this place something that I stumbled over quite difficultly. Yagar Sahaduta. Yeah. Something along those lines, which is witness heap. There's a pillar and a heap of rocks that they place in this plain as witnesses of this act. And so they have a feast and they eat. However, in this feast, they make it as a witness to both not only the God of Abraham, but of the God of Nahor, which one we believe is active, live, good, just, and then we have this other one that we're not so familiar with, which I reference, which is interesting because it's something that happens later on in other stories, that God is placed opposing another god per se, or gods at that time, and he is shown just. The God of Abraham is constantly shown just. And I don't mean as in like the strong arm of the law. I mean the provision. So think about it for a moment. What is he being considered just in this moment? Well, Jacob put his trust in that God, whereas Laban has been putting his trust in his idols of Nahor, and they have not. So we see here at the very end an interesting presentation on this field per se, that one has provided and the other has not. We also see that Laban has been dishonest. We see the dirty side, and I have been trying to avoid, acting as knowing and taking the person at innocent until proven guilty, I guess would be the best way to put it. But here we see him. He has changed his payment to Jacob, at least in our Western eyes, 10 times. That's not exactly what it means, and we'll read about that in a moment. But he has been unfaithful to his promise. So he is, in essence, used and abused his son-in-law, and he hasn't even given his dowry. Maybe that's not the right word. Usually there is a lump of valuable things given to the children, the female children, as they went off to care for them. So let's move over to rabbinical, or the commentary here. And verse 1, and he heard the words of Laban's son saying, Jacob has taken all that belonged to our father. From what belonged to our father, he has amassed this entire fortune. Notice how this is incorrect. Yes. So the deal was from the very beginning that Jacob would take a portion of the flock and he would give Laban the other portion. And the one portion that Jacob took was actually the, you could call it defective, not pure, I guess, maybe a stretch, but they weren't of good stock, essentially. They weren't of like one color. They were speckled or striped, and we'll go over that here in a moment. So this is dishonesty right here. So it says he amassed, made acquired, he gathered an army, he smote Amalek, which is in 1 Samuel 14:48. So referencing this word here that's being used. So it's amassed is almost like somebody who gathers to themselves an army. So moving on, and the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your forefathers, to your birthplace, and I will be with you. So here's the Lord speaking to Jacob. He is presenting himself before Jacob so that no ill will comes to Jacob. I think there's times in our lives that we need to be open to the Lord speaking to us when we need to move. Sometimes we think that the place that we're at is very comfortable. I mean, consider the fact that Jacob himself, at this moment in time, has gathered to himself he has amassed an army of goats and sheep. I laugh because it's funny in my eyes, but ironically, that phrase is similar to sheep are referenced as kind of humans, and in biblical context, quite a lot. They're similar. So I'm just getting in my head this kind of like comical army of sheep with, spears and swords and everything. But anyways, moving forward, he's amassing this in this area. So it would be hard for him to move. And there I will be with you, but as long as you are still attached to the unclean one, it is impossible to cause my presence to rest upon you. So here's referencing the concept of if you attach yourself to things that are impure, then the Lord can't be present, is a concept here. He cannot be in the presence of that. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flocks. So he called Rachel and Leah, first Rachel and then Leah, because Rachel was the mainstay of the household, because on her account Jacob had joined Laban. Even Leah's children acknowledged this matter, for Boaz and his tribunal of the tribe of Yehudah say, like Rachel and like Leah, both of whom built, etc. In Ruth 4:11, they placed Rachel before Leah. I guess so. Because typically it would be the first child. But here once again we see, may the last, or shall the first be last and the last shall be first. Is something similar here. Not that they're twins like we saw before, but conceptually it's still kind of ringing true here. But your father mocked me and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not permit him to harm me. So this 10 times, it says 10 times and then 10 times. It means not less than 10. But this one here, it says 10 times, a term denoting the base number, which is 10. We learn that the Laban changed his stipulations 100 times. So 10 times 10 times. So 10 times 10 is 100 here. So almost an uncountable amount of time. This is not denoting like an exact, like you changed my wages exactly 10 times. No, this is like you've consistently been doing this. It came to pass at the time that the animals came into heat, that I lifted my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the he-goats that mounted the animals were ringed, speckled, and striped. And behold, the he-goats, although Laban had separated them all, so that the animals would not conceive their likeness, the angels were bringing them from the flock that had been given over to the hands of Laban's sons of the flock that was in Jacob's hands. There may have been some supernatural things that were happening, I guess, under this reading here, 73:10. But I think this. So I'm looking at this as the fact that he started with the separation of a small thing, and then God gave him what has come to pass. So, and we see now the ringed, the speckled, and the striped. So you could consider those things blemishes, would probably be a better way to say it. There was a bit on this Jacob, and I said, "Here I am." It said a little bit on the there hasn't been someone like Jacob in our generations, was a thing that I noticed. I'm not sure if that's going to be this one here. So here, I pull this up because I found this note here interesting, and I'm trying to, approach this a little bit differently and kind of keep on my tabs the ones that I saw. But my portion of the land of the living, it is rather the land whose dead can't come to life first in the Messianic era. Well, this very sentence is an extremely interesting one to me, in my opinion, because it's saying that the land whose dead come to life first in the Messianic era. So there's this concept within inside of, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but the Mashiach is like is the Messiah within inside of this concept, and he's going to come to save the people. But he's also raising the dead, which I thought, in my understanding, was something that was not very, like an afterlife wasn't a thing that was common understanding within inside of Jewish culture. But it may also be that we're misunderstanding each other or passing by each other in this concept, meaning like our spirit doesn't come out. They literally think that there's something post this that is happening. Like we are going to physically come back. So it's not a life after death per se. Like I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but basically when I read this, I was like, wow, I didn't think that this was something they agreed upon. And then there's another part to this. I guess there's a major disagreement, I should say, within the culture or the heritage of this. So maybe this is like one argument for this. Anyways, take that as you will. But we have God proclaiming, "I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a monument, where you pronounced to me a vow. Now arise, go forth from this land and return to the land of your birth." So what I was talking about, this land that is being spoken about, is the land in which we'll first experience the dead coming alive, is one interpretation. I am the God of Bethel. The hey is superfluous. It is in the way of the scriptures to speak this way, like, for you are coming to the land of Canaan, where you were you anointed. This is an expression of grandeur, greatness, just as one is an anointed king. So is the meaning of, and he poured oil on top of it to be anointed as an altar. Where you pronounced to me a vow, you must pay it up, for you said, it shall be the house of God, that you would offer up sacrifices here. My mind just kind of finally put a little bit two and two together. There is a sacrifice that's made via a covenant that is on top of this area that we're going to see, but this may be a little bit later. But just an interesting connection in my mind, that what happens between him, Jacob, and Laban is they're going to, a covenant requires the sacrifice of animals in the sense that they're going to eat those things for food. And Rachel and Leah replied and said to him, "Do we still have a share or inheritance in our father's house?" This is an interesting statement, because I read it initially as like, we're still waiting for our father to give us an inheritance, so should we leave this place? But no, it's why should we stop you from returning? Do we still hope to inherit anything of our father's property among the males? Meaning, so he didn't give them anything in their weddings. He has squandered the money that they were supposed to inherit, and they have nothing to show for it. So why not? Why should we stay here? Why not go back to the land you came from? Are we not considered by him as strangers? For he sold us and also consumed our money. Oh, yeah. And technically, he sold his daughters for Jacob's work and his blessing of being around them, which is I would consider a pretty ill-gotten gain would comes to mind with that, which if you watched this series from the beginning, there's a moment where ill-gotten gain comes up a lot. Are we not considered by him as strangers, even at a time when people usually give a dowry to their daughters? So I was right, dowry. At the time of marriage, he behaved towards us as one who behaves towards a stranger. For he sold us to you, for you served him 14 years for us, and he gave us to you as wages for labor. And it says our money, for he kept the wages for your labor. So the thing that, we were supposed to benefit from, he took from us. However, there's one important thing in this, is that earlier it had said that something along the lines of Rachel had sent signals to Leah, denoting the moment in which they would exchange themselves so that Leah would go and be Jacob's wife. However, if that were true, then there wouldn't be this animosity because they were a part of the whole thing. Meaning that the way he treated them was as if strangers. Why would strangers be in cahoots is my point. So I think here it's giving us a better image of what actually happened, in the sense that Laban wanted to utilize his daughters for ill-gotten gain with Jacob. And in the end, it doesn't work for him very well. If I'm not reading too far into this. But all the wealth that God separated from our father is ours and our children. So now all that God said to you, do. But all the wealth. That is, we have nothing of our father's, but what the Holy One, blessed be he, separated from our father, is ours. Separated, a term meaning that he separated, and so every expression of this in Scripture means separation, that one separates another from harm or from the enemy. So here's maybe some life experience from myself coming in here in reference. There are moments that we have to acknowledge that if God's calling us to some place, and it may seem more profitable to stay where we're at, we need to remember that the things that we have profited from are because of God. God worked for Jacob to have a multitude, amass an army of spear-holding, goats and sheep, right? Sorry, it's still kind of humorous in my mind, but the thought here is you may be coming across something in life that everything seems right, everything seems good, and then you get this sense that you need to get up and move out, even though the place that you're at is profitable. We don't know what would happen if he stayed. Be an interesting turn of events. Probably something else may have happened. I do believe that we have that potential because God could have intervened in some other way. I don't think that God is limited in such a minute concept. But my point here is not to belabor all that. Don't ever forget that the reason why you're being profitable now is because of God. And if God calls us to go and move somewhere else, it would be wise to follow the one that makes us profitable. Not to be all like, God is, he's going to give you a bunch of money. That's not the point of this. The point is we should never forget to be thankful for what he's given us, but also go where he calls us, because he will do the same there. But if we stay where we're at, there's high potential that he's not. I mean, I'm not going to put God in a box there. So Jacob rose, and he lifted up his sons and his wives upon the camels. He put the males before the females, but Esav put the females before the males, as it is said below, 36:6, and Esav took his wives and his sons. Yeah, I guess there's this concept. However, ironically, this is always flipped. May the first be last and the last be first. So I could almost read into this that the wives were much more important than the sons. If we want to go down that road, I'm not even going to. I don't know if it's that important in my mind. Maybe there's some type of respect or honor thing that's going on, but I'll just leave that there. And he led all his livestock and all his possessions that he had acquired, the purchase of his acquisition, which he had acquired and put on Aram, to come to Yitzhak, his father, to the land of Canaan. The purchase was an acquisition, what he had purchased. So it was implied that by him garnering all of these sheep and goats, that he was able to buy himself maidservants, manservants, camels, donkeys, amass himself, a people. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and meanwhile Rachel stole her father's teraphim. So here we see another word instead of images, but this is all coming down to essentially idols, idolatry. To shear his sheep that he had given into the hands of his sons, a journey of 3 days between him and Jacob. I don't know how that's gathered from this. There was something about impressions, impressing something when there is shearing that goes on. I couldn't understand the analogy, probably because I've never sheared sheep before. Sorry for the loss on that one. And meanwhile, Rachel stole her father's teraphim. She intended to separate her father from idolatry. Okay, so here we see another large, I would say, deviation from at least Western culture, and possibly what they're saying. Rachel stole her father's idols, not because she wanted them, but to save her father from idol worship. So, in the commentary here, it says, Laban had gone to shear sheep, and Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's, had gone to shear sheep. Everywhere that shearing is stated, it makes an impression. Like I was saying, there's more to it, but Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's, but her intentions were only for the sake of heaven. She said, what am I going to go on my way and leave this elder in his corruption? That is why it was necessary for the verse to say, Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's. So the little note here is she took them for his sake to remove idolatry from him, not because she wanted them herself. Yes. So this is a very, very large deviation from what I remember being taught about this. It's hard to even see that intent here strictly by reading it, but just know that there is this concept. There's two concepts. Either she took them for herself or she took him to aid her father. On the third day, Laban was informed that Jacob had fled, for there was a 3-day journey between them. And so he took his kinsman with him, and he pursued him 7 days' journey, and he overtook him at Mount Gilead. His kinsmen, his brothers, his family, outside of Jacob and his 4 wives. 7 days journey. All these days during the time the reporter went to tell Laban, Jacob went on his way. We find that Jacob was 6 days distant from Laban. On the 7th day, Laban overtook him. We find the entire distance that Jacob had traversed in 7 days. Laban traversed in 1 day, as it is said, and he pursued him 7 days journey, but it does not say, and he pursued him 7 days. Yeah, there's some. It's making the argument that it took him 1 day to traverse effectively 6.5 days worth of travel, is the concept here. And God came to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream of the night. So here God is approaching Laban, a man who is not being presented as a very good or righteous individual, in a dream. And he said to him, beware, lest you speak with Jacob, either good or evil. And now it says here, either good or evil. All the good of the wicked is considered evil to the righteous. Tried to find this note here, couldn't find it. So I'm going to give it my best. This concept here is that the righteous, their good deeds and their evil deeds are above the good and evil deeds of a wicked person. For myself, I guess maybe I'm a little bit more either or, creating a dichotomy in my head than this tiered system. I think that evil is evil, and righteous is righteous, or wicked is wicked. I don't know if it depends on the righteousness of the person or the wickedness of that person. Now, there is an argument to be made. There is an argument to be made in this, that the intent, meaning a good deed done by somebody who doesn't have intent to do good deeds, isn't as good as someone who does a good deed with the intent to do the good thing. Maybe like an accident would be a good example of this, possibly, that by accidentally leaving $20 on the side, you feed a family for a day or something, something along those lines. Whereas like somebody who intends to go and do the thing is more righteous, I guess. So take that or leave it. I'm not sure if I can. I think I see the point. I wish I could get into that reading there. I don't know why I couldn't find it, but anyways, we see God saying, do neither of these things, which I find interesting because it's almost like saying, don't say anything at all. God's telling Laban, don't say anything. Because, I mean, what's the thing that is, not good, but also not evil? Like, what is that? I guess you have extreme neutrality, which is difficult, maybe. So, I don't know. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done that you concealed from me and led away my daughters like prisoners of war? So we have another moment in which it's like, no, if you read earlier on, he tells his wives and they go, what do we have to inherit from our father? So he's making it sound as if they're being, brought out, like these prisoners of war. This is saying, and this is also another very interesting concept in my mind, because I start thinking of a lot of other imagery with inside of the Bible, but like captives of a sword, every army goes to war is called a sword. So when we read this word, it could mean an army, a collection of people, an amassing of sheep with spears, right? So, what have you done that you concealed from me and led away my daughters like prisoners of war? Why have you fled secretly and concealed from me and not told me? I would have sent you away with joy and with songs and with drum and with harp. I think there was another word there. Tharp? Probably take me too long to find it. Give me 1 second. 27. I know. Okay. Tabre. That's an interesting word. It's drum, obviously, but and concealed from me, you concealed from me. So, or literal meaning is you stole from me. So Laban is claiming you stole these things from me. Now, maybe we should give him a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. I mean, who told him that was what was going on? But his kinsman up here at the very beginning, it says, heard the words of Laban's sons saying. And so, I mean, we could give him the benefit of doubt. He wasn't, under proper information. However, now he's standing before him and accusing him of this. It's not very respectable, but now you have acted foolishly because you didn't let me kiss my sons and daughters away, as if that was going to be let happen. Maybe it would, but I think he's saying these things to pressure Jacob into a deal of coming back, of returning, and that is it is a theme that was kind of presented in some of this. Yes, so here it is. That's why I brought this up. Why did you flee surreptitiously and deceive me, and you did not tell me? I would have sent you with joy, with songs, with drum and harp. Why did you flee surreptitiously? You did not tell me. I would have sent you, he said. Perhaps he will reconsider. Laban thought to himself that if he spoke in this manner, maybe Jacob would reconsider. So there's this accusatory act to attempt to almost what is it, ad baculum, where it's like by force I will make you agree with me. Maybe it's not so heavily handed here, but it is quite accusatory. I have the power to inflict harm upon you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, beware of speaking with Jacob, either good or bad. So he's been provided this opportunity, and he is, interestingly enough, he's speaking to him in a, I guess, like I said, an accusatory way, or a, speaking ill. But then he's like, but God told me not to. So very, very interesting thing. There is strength and power in my hand to inflict harm upon you. Also, everywhere that refers first to the deity means that he is mighty and has much strength. So that's, he has the power to do so, is what that's saying. But now you have gone away, for you longed for your father's house, but why have you stolen my gods? So here he goes from accusation to another accusation. You longed, you wished. There are many words in Scripture. Psalms 84:3. My soul yearns, yea, it pines. You desire the work of your hands. So you longed for your father's house. Well, if there was a proper amount of retrospect on Laban's account for himself, he would realize that he has been serving him dishonestly, and maybe the reason why that all this is happening is because, well, he hasn't treated them very well. I mean, at least in my perspective here, right? I don't know. So he says, you long for your father's house. Sure, I'd like to live in a place that people treat me right. But then he says, why have you stolen my gods? Which, it's good. All right, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. And Jacob replied to, and he said to Laban, because I was afraid, because I said, lest you steal your daughters from me. Because I was afraid, he answered him the first question first, that he said to him, you led away my daughters, etc. So, because I was afraid, lest you steal your daughters from me. Because I was afraid, because I said, lest you steal your daughters from me. I think it's, sorry, the double statement kind of is throwing me off, but I think it's, he's worried that if he did it normally, that Laban wouldn't have let it happen. So the one with whom you find your God shall not live. Now this is a critical piece here. In the presence of our brothers, recognize for yourself what is with me, and take it for yourself. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Second important piece. Shall not live, and from that curse Rachel died on the way. Here, now we're getting into some interesting bits here. And what is with me of yours, meaning what I have that is yours, find it. So here, this is a little bit of a twist. If Rachel meant good for Laban, why is she dying? In my minimal amount of understanding, death is only begotten by something that is a trespass, or not rising to the occasion per se, or missing the mark. I think there's like maybe 5 or 6 different variances of sin, but this is one of them. She trespassed. She took things that were not hers, and therefore we see this proclamation that she died on the way. Returning to the other chapter, to the chapter, she said, why have you not given me, like accusing Jacob for not praying or for giving her kids, saying, give me children. And he's like, I'm not God. Why are you proclaiming this? She says at the very end of it, or I will be considered dead. We'll return to that in the sense that she becomes lost in this moment. I lean personally more to the concept that Rachel did this because she wanted them. Maybe not. Possibly good reasons for it, but to me, I think she did it because she wanted something that was familiar to her. If we go all the way back to the very beginning, but all the wealth that God separated from our Father is ours and our children's. So now all that God said to you do. When I was talking about that, like, it's not by other things. However, she's holding on to one of the things that she thought maintained that for her, in my understanding. So let's move forward because I don't want to put too much on that. So there was a lot written in the Rabbah about this, her no longer being living. And it comes down to one of the bits that she is not buried with her husband. That's one of the more, physical pieces to the concept. So Laban entered Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and the tents of the two handmaids, but he did not find them, and he had come out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Jacob's tent, that is Rachel's tent, for Jacob was usually with her, and so Scripture states below 46:19, the sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, in reference to all of them. However, it does not say Jacob's wife. And 74:9, and entered Rachel's tent. When he came out of Leah's tent, he went back into Rachel's tent before he searched the tents of the handmaids. Why did he bother to do all of this? Because he was aware that she was one who touches everything. Yeah, so they're saying that he has entered into Rachel's tent, went into Leah's tent, and then the handmaids, and then went back into Rachel's tent, which is technically Jacob's tent. If we want to read that way. And the reason is because he knew she touched everything, apparently. And that means best way to put it, she stole things. That's the best way I can put it, is that he knew she was that type of person. That's why they read this, and how they read this. So, I could probably posit that if that's the case, maybe it's because Leah, and this also implies if she was slightly blind, because of the way that it described her, and it wasn't about her countenance, then maybe he assumed that she couldn't steal things because she was blind. There are multiple different other arguments that could be made here, but that is the one that they kind of lean towards. But Rachel had taken the teraphim and placed them into the camel's saddle and sat upon them, so Laban felt about the entire tent but did not find them. An expression of pillow and cushions, as the Targum renders, which is a saddle made like a pillow, and we learned if they encircled it with pillows, these are the pack saddles of the camels, Bastel in French, pack saddle. So that's what this is. There was a little bit of implication that somehow these things turned into jars miraculously, and that was how it was fooled. I think it just came down to the fact that Laban wasn't going to mess with his daughter, who is on that time of her, of womanhood, and so yeah. But this gives it a little bit more of an understanding. She's sitting on the pillow that they put on the camels inside the tent. Jacob was annoyed, and he quarreled with Laban, and he said, Laban, what is my transgression? What is my sin that you have pursued me? My trespass. So transgression or trespass. So we begin, it's been said a couple times, and I've meant to hit crucial words a little bit more poignantly. I missed the very first moment that sin was ever mentioned, and I believe that's chapter 4, when it references the heart condition of Cain. But here we see a transgression. So that is what it's reference. What is my sin? What is my transgression that you have pursued me? Claiming that I've done something against you. So then it goes on to say, pursued, like they chased us on the mountains from pursuing the Philistines. However, it does remind us that he made a very long travel in a very short time. At least 4.5 days and 3 days, if we want to get into 4.5 days and 2.5. Yeah, he had to cover basically 4.5 days in like 3.5-ish, if I get my numbers right. I'm all over the place on that, so don't quote me on that. For you have felt about all things. What have you found? All the utensils of your house, but it here in the presence of my kinsmen and your kinsmen, and let them decide between the two of us. Man, I'm getting really tongue-tied. And let them decide. Let them clarify who is right. So he's even saying, did you find a pen, like a needle? Have you found a needle that we took from you that was yours? Place it in front of everybody else and let them be the judges. Already 20 years I have been with you, and your ewes and she-goats have not aborted, neither have I eaten the rams of your flock. Now that's a very different way of reading 38, the way it kind of reads here. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have I not eaten. So you have to really kind of understand this phrasing to get. Have I aborted goats, and have I eaten the rams of your flock? Have I stymied your progress, is what he's saying. Have not aborted, they have not aborted their fetuses, a miscarried womb, his cow bears young and does not abort the rams of your flock. From here they deduce that even a 1 day old ram is called a ram. Otherwise, what is his boast? He did not eat rams, but he ate lambs. If so, he is a thief. Essentially it's making claims about the age and kind, but at this point, the whole intent of this is that he worked 20 years and he never did a thing wrong. I have not brought home to you anything torn by other animals. I would suffer its loss from my hand. You would demand it. What was stolen by day and what was stolen at night. Here's an interesting pass, because he's basically saying, I've protected everything that you've owned. So not only have I not stymied the progress, I've protected everything you've owned by day and night. Now, anything torn by a lion or wolf, I would suffer its loss, an expression similar to, and not miss, my son Solomon and I will be lacking, I will suffer the loss. If it was missing, it was missing to me, for you will demand it from my hand. Essentially saying that you haven't lost anything on my account. I would suffer its loss. So Jacob would take upon himself whatever loss that was made, if there was one, and what was stolen by day and what was stolen at night. What was stolen by day and what was stolen by night, I paid all. So it's reaffirming all of that through that. I was in the field by day when the heat consumed me, and the frost at night, and my sleep wandered from my eyes. Heat consumed me, a consuming fire. In the frost, he hurls his ice. The Targum renders ice or frost, my sleep, an expression of sleep. Here he's saying, even in the worst conditions, in the heat of the day, in the frost of the night. And if you remember, Jacob called out some individuals when he first got there. What are you doing? Feed the sheep, or water the sheep and go feed them. So he's saying care for these things, which is why I said that this is a strong thing. One of the things that David is noted for is his caring for even one lamb who was taken by a lion. So this is an honorable expression. For 20 years he did this for Laban. Nothing went amiss, nothing was stymied, and he did this in some of the worst conditions. Is what he's putting forth here. This is 20 years that I've spent in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your animals, and you changed my wages 10 times, or if we read it 100 times, or an uncountable amount of times. And you changed my wages, you would change the stipulation between us from speckled to spotted and from ringed to striped. Had not the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak been for me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, and he reproved you last night. In the fear of Yitzhak, he did not wish to say the God of Yitzhak, because the Holy One, blessed be he, does not associate his name with the righteous while they are alive. Although he said to him upon his departure from Beer Sheva, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Yitzhak. Since his eyes had become dim and blind, is like a dead man, Jacob was afraid to say the God of, and said, and the fear of. I think this is a statement saying that the reason why he says, and the fear of Yitzhak, is because he doesn't want to say that his father is dead. I think is what it's implying. I could be wrong. I might be a little off on my assumptions here, but notice the phrasing here. God of my father, God of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak. Maybe this portion disclaims that. I don't know, but I think that might be along the lines of it. Maybe. And he reproved you last night. An expression of reproof, but it's not an expression of clarification. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, and the sons are my sons, and the animals are my animals, and all that you see is mine. Now what would I do to these daughters of mine today, or to their children whom they have borne? Now what would I do there? How could I entertain the thought of harming them? Yeah, that's one way to think of it. This phrasing is very tyrannical, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is you married him off, bud. Those daughters, yes, were your daughters, but they're now his wives. Not that I approve of the concept of multiple wives or anything. That's another conversation. These aren't your sons. It's Jacob's sons. And the animals are my animals. No, they're not. There's a portion that is yours, and there's a portion that is Jacob's. This is an accusation. This is an accusation, in my opinion, a very twisted accusation. In the way that I'm reading this, which puts, in my opinion, if I'm reading it correctly, Laban in a very terrible position, because the word Satan means accuser. So these accusations that he's making are almost akin to not a very good thing, in my opinion, especially since Jacob has dealt with him so well. So now come let us form a covenant, you and I. Ironic that you want to make another covenant with me, since you've gone against the covenants that we've made before. That's my commentary and thought, but may he be a witness. And Jacob goes along with it. It's very, very forgiving of him. He is allowing him to go on with this, which is fascinating, in my opinion. Very, very righteous act here, in my opinion. And Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones, and they took stones and made a pile, and they ate there by the pile. So they ate. This is part of a covenant. A covenant is providing provisions for a feast, essentially. To his kinsmen, they are sons who were to him like brothers, drawing him for trouble or for war. The reason why I make a annotation of that is that sometimes we think of these covenants and things as like, you will do for me, but I will not provide. Sometimes we forget exactly what the premise of the entire thing is on. Laban called it, I'm going to try it again, Yagar Sahaduta, but Jacob called it Gilead. It just means the same thing. Laban said, this pile is a witness between me and you today, therefore he called it Gilead, which means a pile, a witness pile, Mizpah, because he said, may the Lord look between me and you when we are hidden from each other. So when we can't see each other, may the Lord look upon us. And it says, now why was it named Mizpah? Because each one said to the other, may the Lord look between me and you if you transgress the covenant. And we are hidden, so keep us honest here, and we do not see each other. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, when no one is with us, behold, God is a witness between me and you. My daughters and my daughters, twice Bilhah and Zilpah were also his daughters from a concubine. If you afflict my daughters by depriving them of their conjugal rights. So, in this my daughters, there's some. It came down to math and some other things within inside of the Rabbah. Essentially, this statement is 4. 2 daughters the initial time, 2 daughters the second time, equaling 4, meaning Bilhah and Zilpah are his daughters. A bunch of other things. But if you afflict my daughters, which is interesting because I thought that they were handmaids. Anyways, I guess it's on the account of concubines. So essentially, if I'm getting this right, Jacob took 4 of his daughters, if that's correct. Laban said to Jacob, behold this pile, behold this monument, which I have cast between me and you, which I've cast. It says it's like one shooting an arrow. So very straight line, I guess. This pile is a witness, and this monument is a witness that I will not pass this pile to go to you, and that you shall not pass this pile and this monument to come to me to do harm. Until I have spoken from above to do harm, to do harm, you may not pass, but you may pass to do business. So good intent versus ill intent. You may not pass if you have ill intent. If you have good intent, then you may pass. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor judge between us, the God of their father. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Yitzhak. The God of Abraham, it refers to the deity, and the God of Nahor, which is profane. So one is holy, one is profane. It refers to the pagan deities, and then the God of their fathers, profane. So here, not only is he making an oath with him, but he's making it with this attachment too. Not just the God, but of these other gods, which is, I'm not sure how exactly to read it. I took some time of this, but it simply just says that that's how it was. I wish I had a better answer for that, but so they make this oath between this, which also comes in later on in the Bible, where God shows that He is real and other gods are not. But ending this, and Jacob slaughtered a slaughtering on the mountain, and he invited his friends to eat a meal, and they ate bread and lodged on the mountain. So Jacob slaughtered a slaughtering. He slaughtered animals for a feast. His friends who were with Laban to eat a meal. Any kind of food stuff is called this, not only bread. So made a feast. Let us destroy his food with wood. So he's made a large meal, and they ate bread, and so not just bread, but meat and other things. So once again, this is for provision. It's not in a sight of like, let me put it this way. If this is in the place that he is meant to make the sacrifice I was kind of hinting at before, the sacrifice is also to be consumed by the person that did the sacrificing. And so it's a provision for that person, which is counter to Western culture currently, in the sense that when you make a sacrifice something, you're actually sacrificing so that you do not have. Whereas this is saying it's making a sacrifice so that I make a provision for you, is another way to look at that. Anyways, not to, like I say, belabor the point. Hopefully this was good for you. Very, very thankful to do this, and I'm thankful that you made it all the way to this point if you have, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.